Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another exciting weekend Open Series tournament coverage for Champions TCG. My name is Brett Banfi. I am your host. We are bringing you live action from the event today. Tuning in game one, following Zitz Grutzgrupan on the screen. Viewers know him as Magic the Gathering Pro Tour finalist and I think eventual Hall of Famer Jacob Wilson. Also, Vice documentary, and Braumund, one of the longest, oldest players, and still our reigning world number two. So we're jumping in with very fast action. It looks like already a very early victory in game one by Zix. So we've been playing $50 daily events, and the most recent daily event that we did on Friday, this was a Generation 1 and 2 legal event. So we haven't come up with a word for that format yet, but both both uh, both sets are legal. So this would be like the equivalent of what you would have in Legacy if we were playing an equivalent of another TCG format. And And in this event, now Jacob Wilson is a little bit of a newer player, so he missed those first drops of the Generation 1 set. So as a result, he didn't have, a lot of the things that you might find in a typical Gen 1, Gen 2 deck, like maybe the Scorch Wings, the Flammies, even the Flamiguakins, the Draco Furnos. He was playing with instead some of their Gen 2 equivalents. Like I think Magma Magmavox, I believe, is the equivalent of maybe a Flamiguakin, but in Gen 2, so it costs one additional mana, and and it is a 8/7 as opposed to a an 8/8 like Flamiguakin is. Either way, Wilson was able to take that down, that event, using a brand new strategy to the meta, which he introduced. It's more of a control shell, using cards like Woofa with the Aegis ability. And the main novelty that he's playing is, of course, he's playing the greed cards like we just saw played right there with the business, that little frog. But he is also playing a high number of provoke cards. Now, provoke cards do have a good counter in the format, Whirlwind, and the Whirlwind cards are quite prevalent in the Gen 1, Gen 2 mix, because there was many Gen 1 cards like Eaglon, Griffeon, and even Mecha Fly, Mecha Drone, these cards that provide great stats with a Whirlwind ability. But in the Gen 2 format, we're not seeing as many of those Whirlwind cards. We do have the Mech Wing and a few others, but they're a little bit less prevalent. So I'm really excited to see how he develops this Gen 2 build. Looks like he takes out the opposing business right away and the Cutie Bug and drops his Snow Cub. So this is one of the tech cards that he's been recently playing with. It is a 4-mana 4/8. So it does survive double Earthquakes, which Earthquakes are quite prevalent. Another thing that I noticed about Jacob's deck is that he played 2 Stone Firs, but then 1 Trolley, 1 Stana. So he does prefer the Stone Firs, even in the Gen 1, Gen 2 mix, over the Trolleys, which is quite interesting. We see Munta come down and take out the rest of that Snow Cub. Now we see a Magma Claw. I said Magmavox, but that's the Magma Claw. That is the wannabe Flamiguakin. 6 mana 8/7 as opposed to a 5 mana 8/8. But it's still an 8-powered Inferno monster. Usually survives its own Infernos, but not always. Alright, so the Munta does survive that Flamiguakin, and the turn gets passed back. Looks like Munta is focused on the Magma Claw. Down comes the Dracora. Magma Claw now very close to death. Dracora with the Vortex ability drains Zixkutskirpan down there on the bottom of the screen. Jacob told me that is just the abbreviation of his real online name, and that is the alphabet backwards, which I hadn't realized that when I first saw him use that name. And he says, yeah, in other TCG formats like Magic Online, you can have much longer names. So his name actually goes all the way to the letter A. So it's the letter of alphabet backwards, all the way to the letter A. I think that's funny. Okay, Snowbeak takes out Frossetti. Jacob very much prioritizing, and it looks like he returned. I missed what he. Oh, did he? No. Did he return his own Frossetti? Or maybe no. Yeah, I can't recall, but he did just mech wing one of his own uh, champions back to his hand. Down comes Fearon, gets rid of the Cryo Slice, which had suffered a little bit of damage from the earthquake. And Ocho. Ocho takes out Mechwing. Very profitable attack there as a 3/6. Leaves the Ocho on board. Now, looking at Raumund and Jacob, they each have 21 cards remaining in their deck. Looks like Magma Claw goes straight to the face. He might have an answer. Usually Jacob likes to answer the cards on his opponent's board, so he must have something in hand that he'd like to do. And it looks like that might be... Oh, okay, Mechwing, and then... Mechwing to return his own Magma Claw, and Stone Claw to take out the Fearon and the Ocho. So... Now we see Raumund coming down with the business. Dracora again. Vortex so straight to the face. And we see another... Maybe we'll see that Magma Claw come back down. That would leave Jacob with only 3 cards, and it does take out itself this time. So it looks like Raumund has somewhat turned a corner here. He does evolve the Frossetti into the Glacetti, draws a card, and plays Ocho. Interesting decision. He is playing out his full hand here, so we're going to see if Jacob has some sort of earthquake answer here. He has an Ami. It looks like maybe this one has gotten away a little bit from him. He follows up with a Speedy. The Speedy takes care of the opposing Ocho. Then we see Ocho take out Dracora. So now there is a small window here. Snowgaze to draw 2 cards, down to 13. Facing a very formidable Glacetti with the Shatter ability and also the Amper Charge, which is a very poor man's Sandstalker. Gosh, when that first Sandstalker came out in Gen 1, I don't think anyone realized how good it was going to be. Alright, Glide Fin coming down. It looks like that's going to be it. Well, we see that Zix came out to a big Game 1 victory, and followed by a quick victory by Raumund in Game 2. Alright, sorry, I'm just taking a look at the Discord here. We're going to bring you over to Game 3 in just a moment. Well, that was exciting, and now we have game 3 to look forward to. I want to quickly shout out the back-end engineers working on this game who managed to spin up spectate mode very quickly. Absolute bosses. Captain Coombs, this one's for you. And as we jump in, we see some action here. Dracora now has 2 damage marks on it with that fangs. It takes out the shield on the Boopasnoot. And then we see a stone fur to clean things up. Ignisteel coming down, taking care of that stone fur. That is the combustion ability, which occasionally will backfire. Ocho coming down. Now, wonder, okay, so I'm surprised to see that Rauman chose to square up with the Ignisteel. I don't think that was a bad decision, but it was just that it's unclear which he was going to do. Because I think there's also a case for the cutie bug, although now we're seeing that he's rewarded for that decision to ignore the cutie bug because the Rock Claw cleaned the cutie bug up. Rock Claw, one of those new Earthquake cards. There's not many in Gen 2. Comes down as a 5/8. First of all, it's a really ferocious looking raccoon, so there's that going for it. Snowgaze comes down, and now Speedy hitting Raumund in the face. Frossetti freezing the Snowgaze, and Rockclaw, without the retaliation damage concern, cleans it up. Now down comes Galefin, but takes out the Speedy. So Raumund playing a little bit more of a slow and patient game. Stonefur to Earthquake, and then return the Earthquake to the hand. Frossetti can evolve there into Glacetti with Shatter. Frossetti with the Blizzard effect. And a new Frossetti to freeze the Macwing. Interesting. So again, Raumund down to 3 cards in hand, but seemingly very far ahead on board here, especially with that Glacetti out there as a 6/8. It's quite difficult to deal with. We could see, a double Ocho come down to clean up Rockclaw and Dracora, but not very easy to get rid of that Glacetti. You can freeze it, but like for example with a Ice Eagle, but okay, so we see the stone fur that we knew was in Jacob's hand there that got mech winged last turn. That comes down as a 4/6. Able to do some damage. Okay, and we have a Firon that takes out the Glacetti, so he is able to answer the most threatening permanent on Raumund's board. He will suffer a crackback. Now the Raumund's own Firon comes down, cleans up with Magma Claw. The board is clear, but he is susceptible now to just a normal Earthquake. It's business to draw 2 cards. And there is an Earthquake. Firon still hangs around, but we see this powerful controlling strategy of Jacob. Just as I say that, Amper Charge comes down. If you thought Frossetti was difficult or Glacetti was difficult to deal with, so is Amper Charge. Now you're going to have another way of taking out. Okay, so we have 2 provoke cards. So that's actually quite a good answer. And this is the unique thing that Jacob's been doing in these builds. He does come down with an Ami and a business, but neither time able to draw the full 2 cards. Both times only drawing 1. Okay, Amper Charge takes out one of the Snow Cubs, and we see Snowbeak come down. So yeah, this is really pivotal turn here. We're going to see Siora come in and attack. Siora choosing not to attack. Very interesting decision. I think that's probably a good decision. Okay, now Stonefur comes down, or takes out the amper charge. All right, Munta cleaning up the final snow cub. Psymist with another vortex, and there you see Siora get in too. So the initial decision not to attack with Siora does pay off for Ramen as he gets an additional 2 damage in. Woofa loses its shield, but then evolves immediately into Gnarler, draws a card, and down comes an additional Magma Claw. Furon comes down, gets rid of the larger Magma Claw, but now we have a Gnarler on board. What Jacob really needs right now is one of his Provoke cards. The other thing he needs maybe is to just kill Ramen. He does kill the Furon with the Gnarler, not the Ocho, so that's quite interesting. I think the decision is that he wouldn't be susceptible to